If I asked you, what are lemons used for? You might think of refreshing drinks, salads, or a cool lemonade on a hot summer day. But in Argentina, the largest lemon exporter in the southern hemisphere, over 90% of the lemons grown are not for eating. Can you believe that the lemons here are crushed, pressed, extracted, and transformed, eventually becoming a multi-billion-dollar industry? Welcome to a place where agriculture is not just for sustenance, but also a chemical tool that shapes the world's taste buds. Today's journey will take you to a strange land, where lemon is king, but no one actually eats it, and to explore. Why an industry that seems agricultural has a heavy industrial nature? What happens in the closed-off lemon extraction plants, where almost no lemon reaches the supermarket? And behind the proud export figures, what is happening on the privatized farms? At the end of the video, you will know why a seemingly harmless lemon can leave an acidic mark on both health and the environment. Step into Tucumán, Argentina's lemon capital, a place that produces over 1.7 million tons of lemons annually, accounting for nearly 80% of the national output. But don't expect to find these fresh lemons on your plate. The name lemon in Tucumán has lost its symbolic meaning as a fruit. It has become an industrial unit, like ore, like sugarcane, like chemical raw material. To serve the extraction needs, the Eureka and Lisbon lemon varieties are chosen as they have high citric acid content, thin skin, and are juicy, but have a sharp and bitter taste. Eat them fresh? Even the farmers here don't keep any for their family meals. But they are gold in the eyes of global food, cosmetic, and pharmaceutical manufacturers. An agricultural engineer once described this type of lemon as, not for humans, but for the raw material market. Did you know, Argentina is the world's largest exporter of citric acid, a substance present in almost every type of industrial beverage from soda to energy drinks? Instead of seeing farmers picking lemons to take to the market, you will see large trucks, high-capacity conveyor belts, and acid evaporating concentration towers. In Tucumán, lemons are harvested by hand, but no longer as gentle as a traditional agricultural activity. Tens of tons are collected each day, loaded onto trucks immediately, and then transferred directly to industrial washing lines. No one needs to choose the fruit, because all of it will be crushed. Do you know why a fertile land like Tucumán almost rejects the concept of lemons for eating? The answer lies in the value that the world is placing on the lemon, not its flavor, but its acid, essential oils, and fermented ethanol. And if what is considered an agricultural product is no longer treated as food, then is this still agriculture? But wait. If you think the story ends with extraction technology, you've only seen the tip of the iceberg, because behind those bright yellow fields is a little-known reality. If you think that a lemon can bring profit to the person who grows it, look at the 2021 harvest season in Tucumán. It wasn't a season of harvest, but a season of strikes. According to a local news report, right at the beginning of the harvest season, thousands of lemon workers stopped working. They protested the 40.6% wage increase announced by employers, because it was actually only 25%. The remaining 15% had been applied the previous year. Their request seems simple. A wage of 2,500 pesos per day, about $27 is only enough to live a minimal life. But that request exposed another truth. Workers in the lemon supply chain, even though they work in an industry with top production and export value in Argentina, still live below the poverty line. According to a study on the northern Argentine lemon industry, the real income of workers still does not exceed the poverty line, even after wage increases. If an agricultural industry can generate billions of dollars, but its workers still cannot afford to live, then who is that profit being shared with? A paradox exists. Lemons are squeezed, and so are the workers. In an increasingly closed and industrialized value chain, the worker is placed outside the game of deciding value. They have no shares, no voice at the export negotiation table, but they bear the greatest risks when the market declines or inflation rises. And if you think that's the greatest injustice, wait until you see what's even more exploited than the people. But before that, we will find out what is happening to the lemon itself, the central object of this entire system. At the factories in Tucumán, lemons are not sorted for consumption, but are processed as a unit of industrial raw material. Immediately after harvesting, the lemons are put into washing, crushing, and pressing lines. From here, the lemon juice will be extracted for fermentation to produce citric acid. Part of the peel will be distilled for essential oils, and the remaining pulp will be used for animal feed or ethanol. The citric acid production process mainly uses fermentation with microorganisms, especially the fungus Aspergillus niger. The post-fermentation solution is concentrated and crystallized to obtain citric acid in its pure form for the food, beverage, pharmaceutical, and cosmetic industries. The sour taste you feel in soft drinks may come from a microbial fermentation process, no longer bearing any natural trace of the original lemon. In that process, the lemon is no longer considered a food, but a biological mass containing acid, which needs to have its extraction efficiency optimized. Don't leave yet, because right after this is one of the most worrying secrets. What we thought was an economic advantage is actually an environmental burden. A life cycle assessment of the lemon production industry in Argentina has revealed a shocking figure. The use of agricultural chemicals contributes to over 60% in 11 out of 12 categories of environmental impact. That means, to create that industrial sourness, large amounts of pesticides, chemical fertilizers, and growth stimulants are being poured into the land, not only eroding the fertility of the soil, but also affecting the health of gardeners and the water sources around the area. Another study published in the journal Science of the Total Environment shows that lemon production in Argentina creates a significant water footprint, not only in the amount of irrigation water, but also in the level of long-term water resource degradation due to intensive farming and chemicals. The sourness may spread in your mouth, but its consequences seep deep into the soil and water of Tucumán. We call this agriculture, but is that accurate? When workers live below the poverty line, when the environment is polluted, when the goal is chemical extraction rather than nutrition, how much of a genuine farming industry remains? If lemons are not grown to be eaten, not harvested to be sold as food, no longer present on the dining tables of the local people themselves, then does its role in traditional agriculture still exist? Are we consuming lemons, or are we consuming a chain of chemical industrial processes? Behind that sourness, it's not just an economic story, but an affected ecosystem, a forgotten class of workers, and an unanswered question. What is the true cost of a drop of industrial acid? The next part will not just be numbers, but the truth behind the profits. Don't take your eyes off this journey. Every year, the Argentinian lemon industry brings in hundreds of millions of USD from exports. The majority of this comes from industrial products, essential oils, concentrated juice, dried pulp, and especially citric acid. The figures show steady growth, the reports are full of optimism, and large companies are continuously expanding their raw material areas. However, the majority of the added value lies in the hands of a small group of large corporations. According to industry data, 4 companies control over 80% of Argentina's lemon export production, notably San Miguel, Citromax, Argenti Lemon, and Latin Lemon. They control the value chain from cultivation and processing to logistics and international trade. This leads to a familiar phenomenon in industrialized agricultural sectors: centralization of power and delocalization of profits. This means that although cultivation takes place in Tucumán, the land of small farmers, the majority of the value flows to Buenos Aires, or directly abroad. The Argentinian lemon nominally belongs to this country, but in reality, it may belong to boardrooms in Europe, the US, or tax havens. In the past, the Argentinian state was deeply involved in the citrus industry through cooperative alliances, credit support, and managing floor purchase prices. But since the 1990s, following the wave of privatization, the government has almost completely withdrawn from the lemon value chain. Currently, the dominant model is vertical integration between farmers, businesses, factories, export traders. In this, small lemon growers only play the role of raw material suppliers, with no decision-making power over price, technology, or output. If world prices fall, they suffer. If input costs increase, they bear the burden. If the factory refuses to buy, they go bankrupt. Without a coordinating role, the state also loses the ability to control a sustainable supply chain. Standards for the environment, labor conditions, or fair trade now depend on the very corporations that hold the maximum benefits. In recent years, under international pressure regarding the environment and social justice, many lemon exporting companies in Argentina have begun to put on a sustainable facade. They invest in environmental certifications like Global YCfee and Rainforest Alliance, or commit to reducing carbon emissions in the supply chain. However, according to an analysis by the Fundación Ambiente y Recursos Naturales, FARN, the majority of these activities are superficial, not fundamentally changing labor conditions or reinvesting in local communities. Some CSR programs only focus on media image, without independent audits. Sustainable? But for whom? Reducing emissions on paper, or truly reducing pressure on lemon growers? We have followed the journey of the lemon from the field to the factory, from the export chain to the revenue reports. But that journey is missing the very people who create it: farmers, workers, residents of Tucumán. Where are they in the value diagram? A fruit grown on Argentinian soil, by Argentinian people, but may no longer belong to Argentina. Looking closely, we realize the price for each drop of that acid, not everyone is willing to pay. If you have watched this far, please share this video, not to spread a story about lemons, but to spread a question. Is the food we consume every day truly agricultural produce, or just the result of a relentless chain of exploitation, from people to the land? And if you find this worth pondering, please continue to accompany us. Because sometimes, the most mysterious things lie behind the seemingly simplest aspects of agriculture. The next journey will take us to unveil the truth of alpaca fiber, magical material or clever pricing strategy.